Welcome back to Bulletproof Mindset, your go-to podcast for health, fitness and entertainment. I am your host, Dale Crossar, and today, you can see by the title, we are talking about the winter blues and how to overcome it. This isn't just about surviving the winter period, this is about thriving, and that's exactly what we're going to run through in the 4 points or so that we end up covering off. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I went off on a wee bit of a tangent with the first one, the first maybe 20 minutes of this episode. So if you want to skip all that and just get right into the points, it's after the first 20 minutes. However, what I did open up and talk about was the whole seasonal effectiveness disorder and a couple of fun facts around that. This is referred to as SAD. It's a type of depression that we all face, and it's just, it just seems to be, it's almost been getting used as a get out jail free card, and we're not addressing the root cause, but today's episode is all about addressing that root cause. Now, before we get into the episode, look, Spotify Wrap's going to be coming up, and if you're a Spotify listener, I need a wee favour, just make sure you have subscribed to the channel, you've hit follow, and you've left a 5-star rating. If you deem this 5-star worthy, hopefully you do. If you're not on Spotify and you're listening to this anywhere else, and YouTube, vice versa, again, consider subscribing, leaving a comment below. I want to hear from you. I want to know what is some of your favourite things to do during the winter period to stay on track and get ahead while others are slowing down. So, with that being said, have a wonderful day. Let's go smash this winter period, and I'll see you guys soon. I think it's safe to say the winter blues are well and truly here. I think most of the UK was hit with a little bit of a snowstorm and a windstorm, rainstorm, whatever you want to call it. But for me, I've just noticed that how dark it's getting at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2-3 o'clock. And I wanted to do an episode on this, and was brainstorming a little bit there. And rather than bulletproof your health fitness journey, we're going to winterproof your health and fitness journey. So that's what today's topic is going to be about. How do we beat the winter blues? Is it possible? Well, it is, and I'm going to be here today to share some of my favourite tips and quick hacks that I do with clients, and just kind of share them to you guys for you guys to implement. Now, of course, with all these episodes, these are interactive. I want to hear from your own experience with some things that I may have missed that has worked for you. Share them, and let's share the love and get everyone living a healthier, stronger and fitter lifestyle. So winter, does it suck? Well, I guess it does. It all comes back to this one thing, and it's the starting point is your mindset. There's multiple studies done on just the whole power of your mind when you go to lift something. If you talk yourself out it, you're not going to be able to fire up your CNS system, your central nervous system, to lift, send the signals to your muscles to move that weight. Whereas the opposite, it's not that you've gained any strength, but if you believe it a little bit more, you are more likely to fire up the right signals to your body to move it. So how do we fix the mind? Is it possible to fix the mind? And it can be pretty miserable, especially if you seek sunlight and you love beach days and all this sort of stuff. Especially in Scotland, we don't have that pleasure. But with that being said, a couple of weeks ago, it was Cooper's birthday, and we took him to Troon Beach. It should have been one of those crisp days, you know how those days that, although it's cold, it's quite beautiful. And the plan was to watch sunrise and then watch sunset. We got sunrise, lovely. Drove through to Troon, and it was really misty, it was cold, a wee bit wet, a wee bit miserable, but you know what, we still made fun of it, because I don't know if you've heard, but we can wear more than one layer. And I know that might be a bit contradictory coming from myself, because I always cut about in shorts and one jacket, but put some more layers on, get outside, experience the freshness, the coldness, and there's something to it, and it's probably one of the bigger reasons why we feel so lethargic. We lose our energy through the winter period, and we're affected by the whole SAD syndrome, the seasonal affective, is that how you say it? You know what I'm like with words. Seasonal affective disorder, which it's like a type of depression, just because we don't get as much daylight. Now, what's the alternative? Well, one, move country. Now, people have done that, but most of you listening to this, that might not be an option. You might have job, kids, house, car, whatever. I'd still say it's an option, but what can we do? Do we just need to accept that we're going to feel a little bit more depressed this time of year? Absolutely not. And let's get into some of the things that we can do to tackle this disorder, or whatever you want to call it. Now, there's actually some interesting stats on this. So there is gender differences, believe it or not. So men are twice as likely to be diagnosed with SAD compared to women. However, women are more likely to report experiencing low moods during the autumn and winter. Again, I mean, I looked at some of the headlines and articles and studies of there. I'm not really dove too much into it, but this isn't whether you're affected with it or not. I think we can all agree it definitely is a change, and how we approach that change is the most important thing. Age factors, of course, younger individuals in particular, those aged 16 to 24 are more frequently diagnosed with SAD. Is that because it's the weaker generation growing up? Is that because they're not used to this resilientness that anyone like me in their 30s experienced when we were younger? I think there's a lot to be said actually on that. That's a joke, by the way, before anyone gets up and gets their knickers in a twist. But I would remember going out when I was 14, 15, 16 and I'd be out playing with my friends. Didn't matter how light it was or how dark it was, we were exploring outdoors, and I think there not being as much as that definitely has an effect on the kind of younger generation as well. Most jobs require us to be indoors, and I think we've all experienced that part. If you worked from home or you worked in an office for longer than your usual time period, you feel it. You're like, man, I cannot be fucked doing anything. It's like your body just downregulates the need for energy, and then in your head you're like, I know I need to go to the gym, I know I need to get my steps, I know I need to do X, Y, Z. But then it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. The devil's like, nah, just eat some comfort food, lie on the couch, you deserve it. So it's this fine dance, this balance about fighting against that opposing argument. Now, the last kind of fact I'll bring up in this, because I actually laughed at this. This, again, it's a magazine, so it's not necessarily a true statistic, but they were making the guess that, of course, there's geographical variations, which, of course, in Scotland is always known for being rainy, doom and gloom and all this sort of stuff. But it said here, residents of London have a higher prevalence of SAD disorders, with over 12% affected compared to other regions in the UK. That's not because of the weather, man. That's because they're just miserable bastards that are always in a rush. But I was laughing at that once. I thought, London out of all places. So I actually thought the opposite. I thought the further north you would go, the more affected you would be by this seasonal effectiveness disorder. So if we know it's a type of depression, and I guess all depressions are depression at the end of the day, first things first, like, just know that, like, everyone experiences it, right? We all have a response to it. Some respond stronger to it than others, and it's all to do with what you've been exposed to. How much resilience have you brought up in your life? So when you're sitting there and you're comparing yourself to other people's lives, and you're like, oh, but they can go out and do this and they can do that, whatever the comparison is, just know that they've worked on that. And okay, they might just be someone who's a little bit more genetically gifted, or maybe had a different upbringing to yours, and they've been experienced to more things and not had to necessarily work on it, but just are more resilient to this word depression. But it can change, right? It's not something that you're just dealt the hand with, but it can only change if you want it to. You need to be bought into the idea of it, right? So earlier in this episode, I was saying it all starts with the mindset. The mindset is genuinely everything. Mindset is so powerful. Now, to back it up, obviously to believe that you're something that maybe it's almost like a misalignment. If you're like, no, I'm this go fit, go outdoors type of person, and I'm this fit and strong individual, but you've not really been working out, then there's a misalignment in that journey. So it can be really hard to find the balance to talk yourself into a good game. And don't worry, we're going to get into all this in a second. But differences of overcoming this condition of SAD, or I guess just depression as a whole. What are some strategies that we can walk through? Well, out with what I'm going to talk through in this episode, I think it's probably first a fair point to highlight that I'm no doctor, I'm no therapist, although part of your job does become that when you're a coach, but I don't have that as that. I'm no licensed therapist, right? Now, that doesn't mean what I'm going to say isn't going to help you, but I think it's worth noting that there is a route to take here, that if you feel you're so affected by the darker nights and this winter sadness or this winter period every single year, put the pieces together and kind of try and sit and deal with those emotions. And if you can't deal with it because it just sends you down this downward spiral where you're snacking more, you're reaching to food more, and you're doing all the things that you know you don't want to be doing, then it's probably worth reaching out to someone, going to therapy, what's the other one, the cognitive behavioural therapy, the CBT I think it's referred to as. So there's many different ways that you can go through that. But again, it's all talk, right? And I say this slightly, like I know it's worked for a lot of people, but it'll only work if you take action. Without action, all this is relevant. You can talk a good game. It's like someone, we've all met that person. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then you meet them again. I'm going to do this and I'm doing that. You just start to lose trust in that individual. So think about what's happening psychologically when you keep telling yourself, like I'm dealing with it. I'm talking through my emotions and I'm feeling my emotions. But if you don't take action on them and start to put in place some habits and all the other things we're going to get to in this episode, then it's almost irrelevant, right? So just bear that in mind. Now, I do want to touch on the main solution, which goes against every bone in my body, because I know the power of moving your body, having a good nutritional source come into your diet, or whatever you want to call it, the foods that you consume, and then lifting weights, the power of the strength that you can gain by doing something and seeing changes to these little micro adverse situations in your life. People that I have worked with in the past have jumped the gun and they've made the leap to go to the NHS or go to a doctor, go to whoever, their GP, and then got antidepressants for this condition. Now, there's two parts to this, right? So let's talk about the one part that's the obvious one, right? If you're so stuck in a hole and your mindset's so warped and you just don't believe anything, and the first step that you can do is reach out to your GP to get these antidepressants just to make you feel a fraction better. That fraction that is then better within your mindset, if that allows you to take the step outside and go through some of these other things, then great. Look, all power to you. This is a great use of it. But sadly, what ends up happening is it becomes this plaster over the root cause. It doesn't actually address what's going on. Why is there sadness or depression in your life just now? Yes, there's an element of what happens biologically and hormonally and just energy-wise. When the sun goes down, the sun comes up and we don't get as much sunlight. But is that the real issue as to why you're feeling down this time of year? No, there's always a deeper issue, right? So the other side to this, the medication side of things, I almost think it's like step 5 before we've tried to do step 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I really think that personal trainers and coaches, we're at kind of the front line of this, and we should be doing a better job of helping clients overcome this by maybe changing up what we need to do or changing up the routine by making it a wee bit more fun. Like, there's so many different ways you can do it, but essentially that's something that's not really considered. You don't think about, like, it's getting into winter period, like, I know I'm going to experience this sadness, I'm not feeling good myself. Yeah, I'll reach out to a personal trainer. You think about, how do I fix this? Oh, I know those medications over there is going to help me. I'm going to take that, because guess what? It's an easier path. Whether you like to hear it or not, it's easier to go to your GP, take the prescription, put the pills in your mouth, get the little rush of serotonin and dopamine hit, and then not change anything when it comes to your lifestyle. And that, you then become numb, your body adapts to that medication that you've had. Take it back a couple of steps and you'll have to increase your medication. Then there's a hard hit when you have to try and come off those medication. But guess what? Most people don't. Most people have just signed up to life on these types of things. And I can only imagine the self-belief in themselves to overcome that. Because it's easy for me to sit here and go, do this, do that, do that. But ultimately, like, we're all facing our own demons and we need to kind of work through them ourselves. But the whole point of me raising that point is the medication part should just be the tool, right? It should just be the tool that's used to get the job done. Like, a hammer's no good if it's not hitting nails. You know what I mean? If you need to screw a drywall screw to hold a picture frame up, could you get away with just hammering it into the wall? Probably. But let's say you needed to open a tin of tuna. Can you open it with a hammer? Again, probably. I'm trying to think of an analogy where you wouldn't need a hammer for. Maybe you need a hammer for most things in life. Maybe that's the key. Strength training is the hammer, guys, right? Just fucking knocking things out. But let's say you wanted to glue something to a wall and the only tool you've got is a hammer. That's not going to glue that thing to the wall, is it? So it's about utilising these tools for the right thing. So the tool in this case is the antidepressant, the kind of increased level of serotonin you get, the feel-good, happy hormone. Okay, I'm feeling good. Right, what actions and habits do I need to put in play? Well, that's where we're nicely leading on to the next part of this conversation. So lifestyle adjustments has to be up there with one of the biggest things we can do to overcome the winter blues or the winter sadness, right? So we need to maximise sunlight exposure, right? If the sun's only up from, I don't know, what time is it? About 8:30ish if we're lucky. It starts to go down about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Where I live might be different to where you are. Then it's almost even more crucial to make sure that the days or the lighter parts of the day when you get your lunch break, or if you're off for that bit, there is a mandatory scheduled walk in there. Doesn't need to be a walk. If you are a runner and you want to do running, you're a cyclist, whatever, do your thing, but get outside, right? Whether it's 5 minutes, it sounds ridiculous, but that 5 minutes will give you a rush of accomplishment. And I'm going to talk about tracking and all this sort of stuff. Not tracking in the sense of tracking calories, but making sure you're going, here, that was actually a pretty good week. Every single client, actually, up until the past week, that's a lie, it's not every client, but a good handful of clients have reminded the past week where they just have a day where they missed their numbers. They had a day where they wanted to work out and they didn't. And it's so weird that the mentality is so warped around, I am a failure because I missed that day. And they don't realise that the workout that they done on Wednesday or the Monday, like, there's already been a good amount of effort put into that week. So the day's not a write-off. Like, okay, things get in the way, you can't get the workout in. Look forward, can we get the workout in the rest of the week? If the answer's no, then look, you've probably done your best for that week, but I'm probably bet that there's always something that you can do. But on the flip side of that, there's a bit of shift in mentality. Go, here, that was a good week. You know what, I done pretty well, I done my best. Did you do your best? And as long as your good gets better and your better gets best, I guess that's the theme where we want to go. We're always trying to improve the level of work ethic, hard work, motivation, discipline, whatever you want to call it. We're always trying to improve on that skill. Right, so let's say you work from home. A powerful thing you can do from home is make sure you're in front of a window. Don't go into the garage or this kind of wee dark room. I've noticed that we're just in the studio. I've started boarding up some of the windows because it looks like a jail cell, but it makes it even more important to make sure I'm starting my day with a good amount of outdoors, good getting as much sunlight as I can in. Even though it's not sunny, you can still get the sunlight. So that's ways you can do it from home. But see, especially when you're home, when you're drinking your coffee, like, stand outside, stand out your back, breathe in the fresh air. It sounds all woo-woo stuff, but take time to breathe. Breathwork is another part that can really solve stress or help with stress management, depression and all these sort of things. So there's so many things that this can branch off, but I'll keep them kind of clear and concise, right? So that's one of the lifestyle adjustments. Obviously, we get regular physical activity. We got the dieting side of things, the stress management, as I said, but they're all things going to help overcome the sadness, right? So overcome this seasonal affective disorder, right? But here's the thing with the winter blues. You don't have to just survive it. You can genuinely thrive in it. And I'm going to say a quote that one of good friends, Gio McNee, said earlier in the week with me, and it's one I've heard many times before, but I've not heard it in ages. And this is going to maybe hit 70% of the audience, right? Because there is 30% this just goes over their head. But see, during the winter periods, during a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, when people start to slow down, you can gain a real advantage by speeding up. And I was reminded that earlier in the week, and that to me just lit a fire. I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to fucking get after it. So remember that, right? This is the time of year where people slow down and you can choose to speed up. And what that's going to do for your future goals, for your future events, whether it's fitness, career, mindset, family, friends, it's going to aid that. It's going to level that shit up, right? So take comfort in that. And I hope there's more than 70% of you that hear that and like, yeah, you know what? This is the time. This is the time to double down. This isn't the time to ease the foot off the gas. This is the time where you make the most headway in terms of everyone else. Because see, when it's sunny, everyone's out getting their steps in. See, when it's nice weather, everyone's out and about and getting the shit that they need to get done. But see, when it's like this, that's when it kind of knocks a few people off. And if you listen to this podcast, then you don't want to fall in with the crowd. You want to separate and stand toe to toe and be above the rest, don't you? So let's get into it then. How do we navigate this whole winter mess? How do we increase our mood? How do we increase our energy levels? And more importantly, what are the specific steps that we can all follow to dominate this winter and become bulletproof? Should add that in. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's go. What is the science behind the winter blues, right? So we mentioned it earlier, the seasonal affective SAD disorder. With that comes a lack of movement. There is usually an increased level of partying. And I don't know if this is probably driven more from the corporate workplace. I never went out so much in my life all year until the Christmas periods. Christmas team nights out, Christmas nights out, the other Christmas team's night out, the manager's nights out, the new starts Christmas night. It's just so much, and it's just an excuse to fucking let loose. And it's weird that is then fueled by, oh, it's going to be a new year soon, so that's when I'll start my goals, right? No, it's not. That's how most people think, and you're not most people. And if you truly want to get above the rest, then we need to change that thinking, okay? Alongside of that, you've got the kind of comfort seeking that the holidays brings, right? It's nice to get cozy in front of the fire or with the heating on, the blankets, duvet days, all that sort of stuff. I fucking love a duvet day. I absolutely do. But there's things that I'm going to make sure I've got in place before I'm not going to say reward myself with a duvet day, but before I explore the duvet day, right? Because there's other things that give me that same fuel, that fire to get shit done. So how do we break this? There's a lot to break through when you think about it. But the main thing I can think of is the whole 5 minutes after every time you eat food, go outside for a 5-minute walk. Now, if you don't want to do that, at least do a 10-minute walk every single day. It's proven that 10 minutes, just 10 minutes of movement. Now, I'll come on to whether you can do stuff in the house and all that in a little sec, but just 10 minutes of movement can increase your serotonin levels. It helps with your digestion. You improve your energy, you improve your mood, and that's a big one, right? So the whole part of the power of movement for your kind of mental resilience is absolutely true. If you want to boost your mood, amplify your energy, get blood flow moving about your body, get these signals firing and charging, then move your body. We need to do it more. And just because it's cold outside, just because it gets darker, shouldn't mean we're restricted by that. Now, I know there's a luxury that men may have over women with walking at night and all that sort of stuff, but you have these local tracks, right? I've done this with a client during the week there, and it's all lit up. There's tons of people there, so it's not as if you're feeling a wee bit scared, but the tracks are lit up to about 10 o'clock at night, right? So there's no excuse, even if it is dark outside, go drive somewhere that is more lit. Tracks, or I don't know what I'm calling them, tracks. What are they called? Yeah, it's a track. Athlete tracks, who knows? Football grounds, whatever it is, someone that's well lit and it's a kind of public walking area. Do it with a friend, do it with other people, make it a time to connect. It doesn't always need to be around drinks, around things that you think are making you happy but truly aren't. Like, I'm always going to stand by this point. Like, alcohol, I generally believe, is one of the most overrated things we can do, and it's great to let loose and let our hair down, and it helps balance with stress and all this sort of stuff. But the amount of people I see that full send out on alcohol and then moan about the forget the name of it, and then moan about the hangover they get the next day. What's the point? Like, you wanting sympathy? That's like sawing your arm off and going, why am I doing this? It's like, fucking stop it then. Like, stop sawing. I know I'm full of analogies today. Right, so power of movement is one of the biggest pieces of this puzzle, right? We need to move our body. Now, that can be outside, as I said there. It can also be indoors. If you work from home, you work behind a desk, did you know you're just as likely, or you can be just as unhealthy as someone who smokes 10 cigarettes a day, or someone who falls into the obese category, even if you're not obese, just by having this sedentary desk job, right? So it becomes more important that every hour, every half an hour, stand up, hands above the head, reach all the way up to the sky, back down. Do a couple of wall circles, or just move your arms round in circle. Do something, do a wee mobility routine. Do a few bodyweight squats, just get the joints moving, especially in days where you're not working out. Most people will average a workout 3 or 4 times a week, but if you're out with those days, don't let those, because that's where you kind of break your momentum. And this is the beauty of this. Like, once you start to build momentum, it's so easy to keep going. That's why, like, I'm still on the podcast game here. The pain of me missing a podcast upload to this is an example. I've posted a podcast every Monday and Thursday for 2 years. So I'll get in here and I'll record this like the early hours of Monday morning to make sure an episode goes out on Monday morning if I've missed this, because the pain of missing that kills that. However, if I'm only just getting started, then missing that episode where I've not really built a structure doesn't matter as much. So we're trying to create things that we can build momentum on. So that, I guess the last point of this I'll say is make sure you're tracking it. Get a wee cheat sheet or a piece of paper, a scorecard, something that you can just go, I've done that today, boom. I've done that today, boom. Like, write it down, tick it off. See if you can get 7 days in a row where you've done it. Then can you get 14? Do you increase the activity? Do you increase the time that you're doing it? Does a 10-minute walk go to a 20-minute walk? Like, vice versa, right? So there's tons of ways you can explore this. And then before you know, we're past winter and you're like, whoa, the sun's out. It's actually quite warm. We're not saying that in Scotland, unfortunately. So with the movement part and movement alone, I'm not even talking about lifting weights here. I get it when it's cold and it's dark. Like, you would rather stay in bed. Who wouldn't? Rather lie on the couch. Like, it's a fair trade-off. I actually had this conversation with a group guys earlier this week, the strong workshops that I'm doing, and one of them saying, like, it's going to be really hard to come tonight because they had the fire on and they'd been walking all day and the feet up in the blanket. But ultimately, like, that is a good feeling. But do you know what's even better? Doing the thing you said you'd want to do and still getting the reward of coming back and sitting in front of the fire. Right? You're always going to have the ability to lie down. You're always going to have the ability to get cuddled up and have a day in the couch or whatever it is. But when your health deteriorates, that's when you wish you put in the effort. It's when you wish you'd done all these little micro things that you had the opportunity to do once, but you eventually said no to. And you might have the luxury to say no. And I'm not saying you say no, you go in this 100% success rate where you don't miss, but the more that you do, the more momentum it builds in another way. So the more that you say, yeah, I want to go that walk, but I'm just going to sit and watch TV tonight. The more you do that compounds. Just like it does compound the other way for the better for you, it also compounds against you, and it becomes so hard to break through that cycle. So that's why this is the first pillar. The first pillar is movement. Get your body moving. Okay, next one. Let's talk about, like, the morning routine, I think, is the best thing you can do to beat the blues. You'll always hear people, oh, fuck morning routines. Like, there's two sides to this, actually. You get the morning routine guys. It's like, I wake up at 5 a.m. and when everyone's sleeping, I have done 2 workouts. I've read 40 minutes of an audiobook. I've journaled. I've done blah, 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 blah. Right? That's all good, right? That works for them. Perfect. The other side of the thing, you've got people who said, fuck morning routines. They don't work, right? So too many extremes. But I'm here to tell you that there is a saying out there, win the morning, win the day, because it genuinely does build so much confidence, momentum, and it spurs you along with energy, but you need to prepare for it, right? Best thing you can do is wake up to light, okay? First thing, I've got this little sunlight lamp, and I used it a couple of times last week, but making sure though that light hits your face in the morning, like, it generally, it's the first step. It's the step, and you're like, I actually woke up a wee bit sharper there. Telling yourself the night before that you are going to get up on your first alarm. I'm going to say that again. Telling yourself the night before that you're going to get up on your first alarm. Sounds ridiculous, but if you're in this trap of being, I'm not even going to say trap, if you're just in this constant routine and cycle of saying, yeah, my alarm goes off at 5 and I snooze it and I snooze it and I snooze it and then I get out of bed at 6. Like, you're in this cycle, right? So to break that cycle, tell yourself, when that alarm goes off, I'm going to get up on my first alarm. Put your phone at the other side of the room, put it in the hall if you can, and when you're up, that decision in your mind that's going, just go back to bed, just don't, right? Break through it and get on to your first activity of the day. Hydration, okay? Big glass of water. Now, if you go back to bed after this, cool, do your thing. But this is still going to help you fueling your winter self or getting through this winter period, right? I'm saying it as if it's like a fucking war or something like that. For some people, like, it absolutely is. But the compounding effect of bad choices throughout the winter is probably the reason we're in such a poor health state. Being serious, because you've probably done an okay job during the summer periods where you've done fat loss challenges, whatever it is that you're getting up to, but you've swung so hard the other way now that you generally gain fat that you cannot lose, and then it becomes harder and harder and harder to do as the years goes on. So you wake up in the first alarm. You're telling yourself the night before you're waking up in the first alarm. You wake up to light if you can buy a device. If you don't have light, what I would say, see when you go down to get that first glass of water, open your back door, stand outside, or open the window and just feel the fresh air on your face, right? 5 minutes. Do that for 5 minutes. Doesn't need to be a cold ice bath. None of that. Just 5 minutes, stand in that fresh air, right? Breathe. The other part of this is do not look at your phone. Do not go on social media. Try and mark out the first hour of your day, or at least the first hour of your day where you're not going on your phone, or especially not into social media to doom scroll. So hydration is one part. Next part is if you like a warm drink in the morning, get the kettle on. Get that cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever it is. If you can if you can double this up with going a walk and getting your first 10-minute walk done of the day, then this is where your momentum starts building. The other thing I would add in here is, obviously we said get moving on the previous point. This is where you can insert a wee mobility routine, a few yoga poses, a bit of stretching, something that you're doing for yourself. My wife's great at this. The mobility stuff she's good at, but the other thing is your self-care practice, like washing your face and looking after yourself. Sometimes you can get in the shower. Like, I went through periods of time where I would get a shower every morning before, like, I would go to work from the gym, and found myself, like, over the years showering at night, and I was like, I don't feel as good in the morning. It's like, just do a wee bit of self-care practice for start your day. It's like starting your day right. It doesn't matter when you do it. Like, it's almost arbitrary, and it's this placebo effect that you end up getting from it, but it fucking works, right? So do that. You got your 10-minute walk. You got your movement side of things. And what I would say is, it's not about how much you can do, right? It's not about doing this for 30 minutes. It's not doing a 20-minute run. You can run in the morning, a light jog if you want, but it's just about getting it done, and it's starting your day with the right intention. You started the day for you. You're not starting the day in this high-stress state because you kept snoozing your alarm and then you're running late and blah, 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 blah. It generally sets your day up right. Now, on this side of things, if the time that you get up, obviously you need to factor it in here, right? Now, this doesn't need to be like 3 hours before your first alarm or 3 hours to your normal waking up time. Generally can all be fitted in within 30 minutes. 30 minutes. For some of this, it could be 10 minutes. Now, you try to tell me you can't get up 10 minutes earlier than what you should. Bullshit. I call bullshit right now. So, by getting up early in the morning, you might not consider yourself as a morning eater for whatever reason, but this can be a chance to let your body wake up and start to have breakfast, a nice, good, nutritious breakfast, good amount of protein, good amount of fuel for the day, fats, carbs. There's a mixture of things that you can do. For me, my favourite is 4 eggs and 4 bits of bacon medallions. Sometimes it will be Greek yogurt with berries and a wee bit of granola in it and a bit of honey. Sometimes, because I'm in a rush, it's because of coffee, right? It's a coffee. Depending on what I've done, like, I will always be consistent with the 4 eggs and 4 bits of bacon, because I've sort of mastered that it only takes about 2.5 minutes to make. And then sometimes I add a bowl of oats or whatever it is, a bowl of oats, some oatmeal or something, right? Just getting food in at the start of the day, I think, is so important. I think the whole fasting and stuff, yes, there's a bit of value to it, and if you do it, then fair play to you. But at the start of your day, like, get some sort of fuel in, right? And the other side, this might be the supplementation side of things. So supplements that's worth having is your vitamin D and your fish oil. Maybe a bit of an argument for magnesium if you're consistently working out, but they're the two main ones: vitamin D, fish oil. Oh, creatine as well. Creatine has to be, it's genuinely energy. You're putting energy in your body. It helps you. I'm not getting into the science of it, but it's like, what's a good comparison I can make to this? If anyone's got a diesel car, right? You get different types of diesel you can put in your car. No, that analogy's not going to work. It's like putting diesel in the diesel car, right? You can have fuel, you have the food, or you can have a wee scoop of creatine, but it'll keep your muscle bellies full. It helps the deterioration of the lack of workouts that you're maybe doing, so you still feel strong. But more importantly, there's a ton of cognitive benefits, right? A ton of, like, just this sharpness that can come with it. So definitely invest in those supplements there. Now, you know what I'm going to say next. The next part of this is has to be an element of lifting weights, right? There has to be an element of resistance training. There isn't anything out there. You might get it from your HIIT workouts, you might get it from your spin classes, your Pilates. That's all well and good, but there has to be also a little bit of an element of lifting weights, a good proper resistance training. This is the only time of the year when I say have fun with it, right? Yes, follow a program if you've never followed a program, but if you've been in that structured routine, this is your time to go into the gym. Just do what you like, have a bit of fun, right? If you want to go, I've not done that hip thrust machine, go do it. I've not done that incline press machine or the new, whatever it is, leg press machine. I'm trying to like play on things that I would do. If I go to a gym, I'm going to play with the things that I don't have access to in the gym here, so I don't have machines as such. So I'm probably going to do that, and that's going to be a fun session for me. It might be training arms, like as much as I go against it, majority of the times I think it's pretty irrelevant. It might be doing it, seeking what it's like to train like a bodybuilder, doing a bit of this hybrid routine if you fancy it. However, just be careful with your injuries, right? You don't want to be pushing it. Now, these three here, so your movements, your win in the morning, your supplementation, and your lifting weights is the four things to kind of break through these plateaus. And each one of them, there's a bit of guidance on what you can do with it. The workout side of things is obviously a hard one because you might already be signed up to high intensity classes. There might be Pilates, yoga, whatever it is. They're still good, right? So that can still tick that box. I would just edge you towards just getting a bit of good lifting weights in there, a good bit of resistance training, because it's going to keep your muscle growth, your strengthening around your joints. It's going to help with your injury prevention, especially if you're doing high intensity stuff. You need that space as well to have strategic stress, and like I said, you can have fun with it. It doesn't need to be so monotonous. So here's your homework for tomorrow. Set that alarm half an hour earlier, right? Before you go to bed, one powerful statement you can say to yourself is, I am going to get up on my first alarm. And it sounds so ridiculous. Say it out loud. I am going to get up on my first alarm. And if you are someone who's kind of guided by motivational quotes, think about this. If you don't get up in that first alarm, someone out there that you're competing against is. This is why it's good if you're signed up to races and challenges. And yes, we all want to do our own very best, but deep down we've got this competitive edge within us, and that's sometimes what you need to talk to them. They're getting up on that first alarm. I'm going to make sure I get up. It's a whole Mamba mentality from Kobe Bryant. So do that. You got your water first thing in the morning. You're getting outside for at least 5 minutes. If you're going to go a walk, go 10, 15 minutes, whatever you end up choosing to do, and do that for 7 days. Mark it. If you only get 2 days in a row and you end up sleeping in your third day, then guess what? It's time to start the challenge again. Try and get 7 consecutive days and watch what that does for your energy levels, your mood, your stress, your ability to just get up and get after it. It generally is a cheat code, and it's not really much when you look at it on paper. It's 4 simple steps. Now, there's more we can dive into, making sure how much sleep you get, what types of foods are you having, what's the type of workouts you're doing. Scrap all of that. Don't let all that noise come in. Yes, there's might be an argument for it, but the reason that you're stuck here just now is because every winter you find yourself falling into old habits and behaviours that you don't really want to be doing. So we need to try and break through. Now, when it comes to nutrition, right, you might end up, so this is maybe just a side note, right? Celebrations, chocolate. There's always so much sweets around this time of year, and before you know it, you've done about 3,000 calories in just chocolate alone, right? Try and keep it without the house, or better yet, get your partner to hide it if you can't keep it in the house. Not saying don't have it, but the volume that we do it, we just generally rip the pish with it. We rip the arse right out it. And I don't care how good your discipline is, how motivated you are. If that type of celebrations is there, you're like, nah, I'm not having it. But see, when something stressful's happening in your life, or you've had a bad day at work, a crappy night's sleep, an argument with your partner, an argument with your kids, you're pissed off with someone at the gym, you're going to come home and you're going to see those sweets. The first thing you'll do is, fuck it, you're going to have the sweets, right? So we need to kind of minimise barriers within the house. So try not have the share bag of crisps and chocolates sitting around. If you want them, go out to the shop and get them on the way home. That way it kind of mitigates the spillover or the momentum that might be built where you just have 3 or 4 every single night, and then before you know it, you're craving 3 or 4 of them every single night, that then turns into 5 or 6, 10, the whole box, so on and so forth. All right, so that's your homework. Let me know how you got on. Let me know what's some things that I might have missed from this episode. This is a wee bit of spur in the moment, just to the conversations that I'm seeing on social media and with clients. Yes, it's colder, it's darker, it can be shittier, but it doesn't have to be. Get up in the morning, see if you can catch the morning when it's so crisp and the sun's out or the moon's out. Even better yet, the moon's so clear in the morning. It's, John, like you talk about beauty of sunsets, there's generally a beauty of a moon first thing in the morning. Same at night. Put 2 layers on, get your gloves, get a hat, get a hat, get a scarf, wrap up. Your body's waterproof. We've got clothes. We are not. We are privileged. I was going to say we're not privileged. We absolutely are privileged that we have the ability to do this. And as I said earlier on, we've got the ability to do this just now. And there's going to be a day where we don't, right? It's sad to think about it. I hope it's 50, 60, 70, 80 years down the line for you. But when that day comes, you're going to think back to all these opportunities and times that you've had. And you're like, fuck, man, I should have got my finger out there. And you didn't, right? So this is your time to do it. That's my motivation for you. Get up and get after it. And until next time, I'll see you soon.